I had someone recently ask me, how do I evaluate a deal and mitigate the risks in getting into any particular deal? So, here are some of the factors that I consider when going into a deal, how to mitigate risk. Now, risk is always going to be there. You can't 100% eliminate any risk. And that's the beauty of it, right? If you don't take any risks, then you don't get any reward. So, what do I do? The very first step, like we talked about in a previous video, is surround yourself with good people that can guide you, coach you, mentor you, and can help you evaluate a deal. Now, that may be somebody that's a trusted advisor, maybe your accountant, maybe your lawyer. But I would say if you're going to do real estate, you should really surround yourself with somebody that's a real estate professional. So go find a mentorship group or a coaching club or some other place where you can have some people that have real estate experience that can help you to evaluate a deal and figure out whether it's a good deal or not. The next thing I would do is when I talk to the broker or preferably the seller of the property, I try to understand, why is the person selling? Why are you trying to get rid of this property right now? What's the motivation to sell your property? Why are you not wanting to hold on to it anymore? And that'll tell you a good story about what the general situation is of that asset. So, maybe somebody inherited it, maybe somebody is going through a hard time medically. There could be a number of reasons why somebody's trying to sell it, but that'll give you an idea of generally, did they keep up with the property? Have they deferred any maintenance? Have they done anything that's going to cause you to have problems if you take over the property? Next, I like to go to resources like CoStar or Rentometer or some other free resources online where you can find out what's going on with the demographics of the area. You can go to citydata.com. It'll tell you a lot of good information about whether the city is growing, whether it's dying, is there new industry coming in there. You can review the town hall meetings. You can go to various sources to figure out, is this a good market to really invest in? Do you want to be in a place where the population is going to be going up, or do you want to be in a place where the population is going down, right? So evaluate what is the area that you're investing in and look at the demographics, the geographics, and also the economics of the area. Is it a place where they're paving roads and where they're investing in new buildings and community facilities? Those are great places to invest in because people want to move to those places. The next part of it is to be conservative in your underwriting. What does that mean? It means that, we generally as human beings want to assume the best, right? We want to try to find a reason why we should do the deal, not why we shouldn't do the deal. So always be conservative in your underwriting. Look at the numbers and ask yourself, what is the worst case scenario? Is the rent really going to go up in this area? Am I going to really be able to fill this property at 100%? Which is really not likely. But, ask yourself some really tough questions and be conservative in your estimates. If the pro forma says your rents can go up by 20%, maybe you say, okay, well, I'm going to try to do the math and run the numbers at 15% and see whether or not it makes sense at that price. So be conservative in your estimation. Run the numbers and find reasons why you shouldn't do the deal. Find ways to talk yourself out of it. And if you can't talk yourself out of it, then maybe you should do the deal. But if you find yourself making it pretty easy to talk yourself out of the deal, you might want to, move on to something else. The next step is generally to do a due diligence on the property, right? So you're going to go out there, you're going to look at the property, you're going to evaluate, is the parking lot like they say it is? The next step is to evaluate the property. So you're going to go out to the property, or you're going to have one of your representatives or somebody that you trust go out, walk the property and determine, is the parking lot the way they say it is? Does the plumbing look like it's all in bad shape? Is the landscaping bad? Do the roofs look bad? Is there a bunch of water standing in places that it shouldn't be? Is there damage to the building from maybe a storm in the past? Or the trees really overgrown and overhanging the property? There's a bunch of things you can look at and you can say, okay, how does this property look? But go the extra step. Now, if you're really in that phase where you are under contract or you're very serious about this, you have a letter of intent out there and you need to do some due diligence, hire an electrician, hire a plumber, hire professionals to come out there and evaluate it. It may cost you a little bit of money to do that, but guess what? If you don't scope those pipes, you don't get somebody to come out and look at the electrical boxes, and then you buy this property and now you have to rewire the whole complex, or you have a tree that's grown through a cast iron pipe, that's going to cost you a bunch more money than to have an inspection for $300, $400, $500 and to negotiate that into the price of the deal, or even in some extreme cases to walk away because maybe it's not a good deal. Maybe the wiring is so bad that it doesn't make sense to take the risk because the cost is not something that you can justify, right? So hire professionals, walk the property, and make sure that you're looking at all of the pieces of the pie that can be bad on there. And while the professionals are out there looking at the property in person, I generally tend to look at all the paperwork. So what does that mean? I look at the tax rolls, I make sure that all the taxes are paid. I look at every lease, whether it's a 5-unit complex or a 50-unit complex. I go through every lease to see, does the person have a lease in the first place? What does the lease say? Are there any clauses that are going to get me in trouble? Have they served any eviction notices on these people that they haven't complied with? Have they just been letting these people ride without paying rent, or have they not been billing them the right amount of money? There's a whole bunch of things that could go wrong with the paperwork. So one, you do a lease audit and you look at every piece of paperwork for the property to make sure that everything is good. The other thing you want to do as an investor or an owner is you want to go through and you want to walk through every unit to make sure that the unit is as they say it is. Now, a lot of these apartment owners, they've never set foot in some of these apartments for years because they have a tenant that's paying the rent that doesn't give them problems. And they think that, well, I'm getting paid. They're not causing me problems. They're not complaining. So I'm just going to leave them alone. And I'm not going to check whether or not the walls have holes in them, or there are pets in the apartment that are not supposed to be there, or the inside's burned out and they never told me about it because they're just scared to tell me, or there's 16 people living in an apartment that only 4 people are supposed to be in. It could be all kinds of things going on. So you want to do a walkthrough of every unit, get the keys to the apartments if you can, and walk through there and make sure that the apartments are as they are represented. So do a lease audit, do a paperwork audit, and walk every unit to make sure that what is in there is supposed to be in there. And then finally, you just want to consult as many professionals and or as many people that are in this space as possible. You can't be afraid to talk about your deals with those you trust, because if you can't trust them by telling them the details of your deal, then really is that somebody that should be in your inner circle. The people shouldn't be stealing these deals from you because they're going to need to lean on you at some point in the future. So talk about your deals with those you trust, bring the inner circle in and have a really thorough session of evaluating the property. Use whatever spreadsheets or calculation mechanisms that you have to evaluate whether that property is really the one that you should be moving on. Hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, email me, or send me a message, and I'd be happy to help you evaluate a deal and let you know what my thoughts are on it. So as always, good luck and happy investing.